Hooday, Bengal fans. Mon is joining us shortly. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. There he is, right on cue, the man, the myth, the legend, Mon. Mon, we are filming, actually recording this on Wednesday. This will be dropping tomorrow night on Thursday night. You and I both have work on Thursday night, so are not able to go live. But we do want to thank everybody ahead of time for joining and watching the show. We really appreciate it. Mom, we got a lot to talk about, a lot to dissect. A lot has gone on these last couple days in Bengaldom. Not a lot of positives, unfortunately, but we're going to talk about all of that and get into the picks this week for the AFC North, talk about last week's picks, and then get into the Bengals versus Chiefs matchup in Burrowhead this Sunday at 4 o'clock, Mom. Before we do all of that, though, how's your week been, buddy?
Good. Started off terrible with the Bengal loss. Really wasn't that upset on Sunday, but Monday, Tuesday, it
hit
hurts.
us, yeah.
It hurts big time. I mean, it's just one of the worst losses in last 10 years, really.
No doubt.
I'm not talking playoffs, talking regular season, and it hurt, but got to rebound. Got to right this ship, and I don't know. It's all good. I had my yearly work physical, and our physical at the fire department is pretty thorough, and everybody's a little nervous because they scan your whole body. I passed. So I'm going to be a fireman for another year, guys. And so I'm happy about that. And let's talk about the Chiefs.
And before we do, talking about firemen and first responders, obviously we are filming this on 9/11, an anniversary of a day that will always live in infamy in this country. Just want to say to everyone that lost somebody on that day, thoughts and prayers to you guys out there. Mon, I know with you being a first responder, it really hits heavy. I just want to say that much love and respect for all the first responders out there. It is a thankless job, but you guys lay your life on the line every day for all of us. So thank you, Mon, for everything you do, and thank you for all the first responders that were there on that day that we will always remember in American history. So thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Jake. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a tough day. It was I was on duty when that happened in Florida, and I'll never forget it. And prayers to all those families, everybody that was affected by that.
Yes, thoughts and prayers to everyone out there. All right, let's turn the page and talk about Bengals football. Again, Mon, like you said, this was kind of a tough week, definitely like a hangover from Sunday. One of those games that, on Sunday you realize how bad it was. And then you start watching the film and then you really realize how bad it was. Obviously, this is a game. And again, I know a lot of Bengal fans out there being positive about, hey, it's one game. Yes, we all know it's one game. But these are the games that cost you those first round buys. And that's something that has stuck with me since Sunday is hopefully this game doesn't come back and haunt us. And I got a bad feeling that it will. We've seen it happen in the past with this team. They lose games like this. Remember the Pittsburgh game you and I went to, that home opener? That game cost us. It cost us seeding in the playoffs. And, I do think the Bengals will bounce back. And I think what a way to do it, right? To go into Burrowhead and beat the defending Super Bowl champions. There's no way of saying we are back better than to go out and beat Patrick Mahomes in his house, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a big challenge. I think, the Bengals are always amped up. They match up really well to the Chiefs. But I expect a bounce back for them. I think they're going to show up and play really hard. But you're right, Jake, about that first game. Every season, the Bengals lose a game they have no business losing, and they end up winning a game they have no business winning. So we have to steal one. We have to, we're going to have to steal one from the Chiefs or the Ravens on the road, or one of these tough road games we go to against the Cowboys, a game that we're really going to be underdogs. We have to find a way to win one of those. I think it could happen in Kansas City this week, and I hope it does.
It's going to have to, right? Well, before we talk about all of that and get into it and dissect it, let's talk about the Jamar Chase news, right? I mean, again, we all kind of heard rumblings that this deal was so close, and so close all the way we find out now up until Sunday morning before kickoff, the Bengals and Jamar Chase's team trying to put this thing together, and now the details have come out, and we find out that the Bengals make a very lucrative offer, 4 years, $140 million, 90 million guaranteed, which really shocked me. But it looks like the hang up is the signing bonus, right? The Bengals offer Jamar this is what has come out today. This is what we've heard. The Bengals offered Jamar 30 million up front in a signing bonus, and Jamar's team was looking more for the 70 range, I believe it was. So talk a little bit about that, Mom. What are your thoughts on that? Because I really, you and I and Ace and Zim and Eric, we kind of went back and forth today. And, when you're going back and forth in text, you can't really read people and how people feel truly about it. To me, this is, Eric just said the hang up is the rolling guarantees. So 60 million, it wouldn't be 60 million until later on, but I know you'll talk about that too, Mom. To me, this is a lot of money. I mean, again, I understand the injury thing, and I understand you wanting money up front, but I don't know, Mon. I hear the word guaranteed, and that tells me that you're getting the 90 million, right? It's just when the 90 million was. So I don't really know how I feel about this. I'm a little disappointed in both sides, I guess. Go ahead, Mom. What are your thoughts?
No, I mean it is a lot of money, face value. It's generational money. It's money that's going to set up him, his family, his grandkids for life. But you know, these players compare salaries and bonuses with other players, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
a $90 million in guarantees, but 30 million at signing, and then 60 million that'll be paid out by 2027. But from what I'm interpreting from the SI article, there's if something happens catastrophic in that 2 year period, the Bengals, there's an out for them. They don't have to pay him that 60 million. So
Okay.
that's how I interpret it, and
Okay.
that's why he balked. And another thing, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, business is business. It's business. The Bengals are trying to conduct a business. So is Jamar Chase. CD Lamb got $100 million at signing, and Justin Jefferson got 89 million at signing. That's a big discrepancy. It's a big difference from 30 million. So
I see that for sure.
yeah,
And if you're right, if that's really what the case was, that there was an out, then I do get that. If that's the case, I get it. I get Jamar Chase's side. If that is the situation, if there's an out there for the Bengals, um, we kind of went back and forth, debating whether or not this might still get done, and maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I still think there's a chance, Mon, this gets done. I know right now it seems like what we're hearing is the hang up is how much money the Bengals have and are able to give. Obviously, they're not the Dallas Cowboys, right? The Bengals are a very small market team compared to the Dallas Cowboys, who have all this money that they can throw around. The Bengals don't have that. They just don't have it. So hopefully something gets done here. because like Eric was talking about earlier, that price, we don't want that price to go up, right? I mean, that's a lot of money already. You don't want that price to go up, Mon.
Yeah, I mean it will. They wait a year. It's going to cost them more to sign him next year. I hope that they figure out a way to get it done because I just don't want distractions. I, I'm not. I'm not trying to talk negative about Chase or Higgins. They're arguably the second and third best player on the team. But guys, I mean, fans need to understand something. I know they're making good money this year, but if you tweak your knee or ankle, they might be a little hesitant to go out because they don't want to rupture a tendon. And next thing you know, they don't make $150 million next year. I get it. I really get it. I know that they have a contract and they're training hard, but Jamar Chase has a 5-year contract and he's locked in for 5 years and he's making $140 million and he has a little bit of a tweak in his leg. He's probably going to end up playing because he has security. I don't know, man. It's just one of those things. It's we have to closely monitor it because I don't want the chemistry in that locker room to get affected because that's been one of the Bengals' strengths the last few years, and we can't have
Right.
we can't have that tension in the locker room. We don't want that
Right.
separation. So we have to monitor it. Hopefully, it gets done.
Yeah, I agree. And as Eric talked about too, next year they might not be able to spread that money, the cap hit over the year as well. So all things to consider. I don't know. I got a feeling this still gets done. I think the Bengals are going to find a way, but we'll see. Go ahead.
I mean, just again, all of our fans, guys, we're just reading the article from SI, some Twitter banter from reputable accounts. So, of course, we're not 100% sure on this stuff, but if the Bengals do want to defer that signing bonus to 2027, just make it fully guaranteed. Injury.
Right.
You will get that money. You'll get it by 2027. Just do that. Do that.
Yeah.
I think there might be some injury or some concerns from Chase's camp that something could happen. I don't know. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I think it's going to happen. I really do. The Bengals know how important he is to them.
Yeah. And I think too, just the distraction, right? You don't want two distractions. You already got one, it looks like, with T. Higgins and what's going on, in that situation. It's hard to say if it's something where, what you talked about earlier is T. Higgins not playing because of that situation. You hope not. You really do hope not that's the case. Because, listen, $23 million is still a lot of money. I mean, I know it's not $100 million, but it's still a lot of money, Mon. So let's talk about that real quick because Jamar Chase does practice today. T. Higgins does not, along with Tanner Hudson, Chris Jenkins, and Logan Wilson. Logan Wilson for a knee. Chris Jenkins, obviously, we know that he got surgery on that thumb. Tanner Hudson for a knee. And T. Higgins, obviously, with his hamstring. B.J. Hill was limited with a knee. And Amarius Mims, we see going through workouts and practice today. So a good sign trending for Amarius Mims to maybe making his first appearance in a Cincinnati Bengals uniform on Sunday. Joe Burrow with his right wrist was full today. That is the injury report as of Wednesday, 9/11. So anything that jumps out to you is the Logan Wilson situation that that makes you nervous. I know you're still nervous about Joe Burrow's wrist. Joe Burrow says it feels good and that he's ready to go. He was throwing long balls today, and all the beat writers said it looked good. So Joe Burrow says he feels good. What about Logan Wilson's knee? Is that a concern? I mean, I thought he was one of the best players on the field on this past Sunday.
Yeah, I didn't like seeing that. I did read on another, I think Jay Morrison said that somebody said it could be a rest day. They did mention his knee, but he was out in shorts and there was no brace on his leg or anything like that. I expect him to play. Yeah, he did look good the other day. Joe Burrow, I love the press conference today. I'm at ease a little bit. He seemed very relaxed and he's very open about his wrist, and he's still in the healing process, and it's going to take time. I felt really comfortable, a lot better listening to that press conference.
Yeah.
Mims coming back would be great. I think the offensive line, after watching the game again, they didn't really play that bad. They
No, they
really
didn't.
did not play bad. They didn't play
No, they
bad at
didn't.
all. There just was not a flow, was never developed. It was just an odd. They weren't on the field a lot in the first half. It was just a lack of a flow. So hopefully they can develop that in Kansas City this week. Having Mims in there, ease him in. Hudson might not play this week. I don't know about his injury, so maybe our rookie from Arizona can come in and play. McLaughlin, I think that's his name.
Mhm.
And also, I just want to see this running game a little more consistent. I think I like what I saw from Zach Moss. I'd like to see how we like to see him get 20 carries.
Well, we saw too that PFF said that this was the lowest pressure rate of any Joe Burrow game. So yeah, the offensive line didn't play bad, Mon. But Joe Burrow spoke about how bad he played. And I think that's a big part of being who he is him taking accountability. He called it happy feet. He felt pressure when there wasn't pressure there, got rid of the ball quickly, too quickly at times. And I think there's a lot more on Joe Burrow this game than it was the offensive line. Again, he wasn't pressured very much when you go back and watch the film. So again, I think that's a good sign trending forward that this offensive line is as good as we think it could be, which is good, which is a good feeling to have, because it was one of yours, and it was one of my things that we were more nervous about than anything, was how this offensive line was going to play, right?
Yeah, it was a good it was a good start. Let's put it this way: the level of talent is at another level this week compared to the Patriots. So
Yes.
they're going to be playing
Yes.
a much better team. They're going to have to play harder. I think they will. I think they're a little embarrassed about last week.
They should be.
Bottom line is this: we need more than 10 points from our offense. We need
Yes.
more than 224 yards from our offense, and we cannot have 14 missed tackles on our defense. So,
which I
and we
think
can't
Lou
have
said.
fumbles. We cannot have fumbles either. Turnovers are killers.
Didn't Lou talked about that it was one of the it was one of his games as defensive coordinator in Cincinnati. It was one of his worst games as far as missed tackles. So again, not a good sign. Let me ask you real quick, Mom, before we do our picks, because obviously Dave Lapham came out and said that the NFL contacted the Cincinnati Bengals and said Mike Gesicki's touchdown should have been a touchdown. That's 7 points off the board. Obviously, we don't know if the game's going to end 17-16. We don't know how that changes the entire spectrum of the game and how it plays itself out. Obviously, it's a big hit because the next play, Tanner Hudson fumbles the ball inside the 2-yard line and the Bengals don't get any points out of it. Let me ask you this, because this is something that we talked about off air earlier when we heard about this. Is that something you want to hear, that the refs messed up? To me, it's almost like I'd rather not hear that, because it makes it worse when you lose by 6 points and they take 7 off the board.
I watched the clip from Lapp, and Lapp was talking. I mean, you can interpret it both ways. Was he talking about, hey, the NFL sends out apology letters, or did the NFL send the Bengals an apology letter? I don't know how to interpret that. I'll say this: you were at my house watching it. After I saw those multiple replays, I never thought it was a touchdown. I really didn't, because every week in the NFL, you see multiple plays like that where they overturn them. They really do.
I tell you what, it's probably a touchdown. If it's the Kansas City Chiefs, it's probably a touchdown, Mom.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know the I think we all still don't know the definition of what it means to complete a catch in this league. It's so they have to do a better job of fixing that, because
Eric said he
tell.
said it. Eric said that the NFL contacted the Bengals and said they got
did.
it wrong.
They did.
And
Yeah,
that's
they did. And
gotta move on.
and they drove down the field right after that, as Eric reminded us, is they went right down the field after that and scored. So again, that's a 10-point, I think 10-point, right? Yeah, that was a 10-point flip. That's a lot of points, Vaughn. That's a lot of points. That's detrimental. But again, too, you can always say the Bengals did not play well enough to win the football game. So, all right, let's talk about the AFC North games, Mon. First of all, let's look at last week's. If I remember correctly, there they are. This is ours from last week. We were both wrong on the Patriots. Way off on the Patriots game. We were both right about Kansas City. Almost picked the score too. We both almost picked the score. 27-20 was the final. Wow, look at you and I. We were both wrong on the Falcons. The Falcons choked that game away, giving up 6 field goals to the awful Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And then the Cowboys absolutely dismantled the Cleveland Browns at home, making the Cleveland Browns once again look like they've never played our sport. So I am now up 2-1. And that is the point of this segment, Mon, is that I'm up 2-1.
Well, you've been in a slump lately with your takes, so you needed a rebound. You needed the rebound.
This is my rebound.
I'm glad you got the Browns. I'm glad you got the Browns. When I was really bummed out about the Bengal game, obviously, but I watched that Cowboy game, and it made my heart happy. So, yeah, I enjoyed that.
It's misery loves company, right? Misery loves company.
Yes.
All right, well, let's get to this week's picks for the AFC North. I believe I am going first. We have Browns at Jaguars. Again, Mon, I think this is a game. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Browns at Jags. Again, I think this is a game the Jags had the Dolphins beat. They choked their game away. The Cleveland Browns look awful. I mean, when you think about the Bengals and how bad and poorly we played at home, I'm not sure anybody played worse than the Cleveland Browns did in their football game on Sunday. The Bengals were close, but I have the Jags winning this game by 2 scores. I think this is an easy game for the Jags, a bounce-back game for them. I have the Jaguars beating the Cleveland Browns 28-17, Mon. Who do you have? Jags, Browns.
Coming down to hot Jacksonville. Cleveland looked really poor yesterday. Dallas just had their way with them. Deshaun Watson is a train wreck. I mean, it's
Cleveland Browns. Interesting.
Browns fans are turning on him. Browns fans are turning on him. They're acknowledging it was a terrible signing. They look terrible. 24-14. I got Jacksonville winning this game. Jacksonville heartbreaker last week. They're gonna win at home.
Okay.
They're not gonna lose 2 in a row.
All right. Next up, you are starting this one off, Mon. Steelers at Broncos. What do you got?
Pittsburgh did not score a touchdown last week. I think it was all field goals. Eric just reminded us of that. Pittsburgh's defense is nasty. I mean, their pass rush is unbelievable. But playing in Denver on the road, Denver had a tough loss last week. And I think Denver's going to win it. I know they got a young quarterback, but I got Denver winning 21-12 against Steelers.
21-12. That's an odd score. I'm with you. Listen, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, we kind of, while we're watching the Bengal game, we had that game on. Well, we had the highlights on. What do you call that? Red zone or whatever you have at your house. We're watching that like on another TV in Mon's house. So we have the Bengal game on the big screen, and then we have this red zone thing so we can watch that. And it seemed like the entire first half, the Atlanta Falcons dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their offense is awful, Mon. I mean, Justin Fields is as he is as everybody thought he was going to be, and that is awful. He is just awful. And you can't, you're not going to win every game throwing go balls to George. So I'm with you. I think going on the road to Denver, I think it's a tough matchup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it will be close, though. I have the Broncos winning 20-17 over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 20-17. Here we go. Raiders at Ravens. Again, I don't think the Ravens are that good, Mon. I really don't. I mean, again, no team, if we're going to go by the first week of the season and all these people are just destroying the Bengals, and they should. I mean, they deserve it. They looked awful. But so did the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, when you go back and reflect on that game against Chiefs, they shouldn't even have been in that game. They looked awful. I mean, Lamar Jackson looked awful. But I do think this is a game at home. The Raiders are a just terrible football team with no future at all. The quarterback is horrendous. Should not even be in this league. The Ravens are going to win this one 28-17. Who do you got, Mom?
I don't see the Ravens losing at home. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to lose 2 games in a row. I know that game was a little uneven last week against the Chiefs, but they did put 450 on them. So they had their way running the ball, and they had a good offense. They were moving up and down the field. They just couldn't punch it in. Lamar missed some easy touchdowns. I have the Ravens winning 2014.
2014. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So you have the Raiders actually giving them a game. All right. That would be nice to see. I would enjoy that. All right. So Bengals at Chiefs, the game of the week. Mon, let's go ahead and we'll do our prediction, and then we'll break down the matchups. Mon, you go first with this one. Bengals at Chiefs in Burrow.
So we're going to give our score and then talk about the game. Is that what you want to do?
I think that's what we're going to do. Eric, is that what we're going to do? Yep, let's do that. Here we go.
Okay. The Bengals are going to play much harder. They're going to play a lot harder. I think they're going to be they're embarrassed about what happened last week, but they're not going to win. And playing on the road against Kansas City, Super Bowl champs, I think it's going to be a very close game. I expect Burrow to rebound and play well, but I just don't think our defense is going to be able to keep up with them. I have it 27-21 Kansas City over the Bengals.
Okay. I hope you're wrong, and I think you're going to be wrong. I think the Bengals are going to bounce back this week. And again, I know people are going to be like, "Oh, Jake, you're being a homer." But to me, a dangerous Joe Burrow is an embarrassed Joe Burrow. And we've seen it before. We've seen Joe Burrow play terrible and bounce back. And I think I believe this, Mon. I believe that we match up against Kansas City better than anyone else in the NFL. I just believe that. It's been proven. That's factual, right? 3-1 against the Chiefs. I think the Bengals win this on an Evan McPherson last-second field goal, 24-21. And I think Joe Burrow comes out and reminds everybody of who he is. All right, so 24-21, 27-21 Chiefs. Let's talk about this game and the matchups. Mon, let's start first. With the quarterback matchup. Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow has won this matchup 3 out of 4 games. The only loss is the one in overtime in the AFC Championship game in Kansas City, where we obviously know how that game ended and everything unfolded with the bad punt and the hit out of bounds. Tell me about this matchup, Mon, Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes.
I like it. You hit it right on the head. Four four games. Joe Burrow has won 3 of the 4. It's a little different this time, guys. I mean, Joe Burrow said it came out of his own mouth. He was a little rattled and he was a little antsy against the Patriots. And guys, he's recovering from a significant wrist injury. He's throwing the ball well. He's still got scar tissue. He's still moving it around. He's still, trying to perfect it and get back to where he was, because he was a very hot quarterback last year before he injured that wrist. He's one of the top quarterbacks in football. This is, we were talking earlier when the schedule first came out that, hey, man, we get to play the Chiefs early in the season. Everybody's going to be healthy. Part of me wishes this game was game 13 or 12 later in the season.
Me too. I agree.
I mean, this is one of those weird situations. The Russ would be out and Joe Burrow would be Joe Burrow. He's going to be a lot better. He's going to be relaxed. And you're right. He was embarrassed. He's going to be focused. And, he's going to come in and he's going to make his plays. But their big difference, I've told you guys this. You guys, are probably sick and tired of hearing it. The big difference is that interior offensive line. Pat Mahomes never has hardly any pressure coming up the middle. He's untouched. I mean, he can run around and do whatever. And if you compare the centers and 2 guards for both teams, it's not even close. It's not even close. Our offensive line has improved. Those guys are on another planet. They're on another level. And I think that's the difference. And when we talk about the quarterbacks, we have to look at their surrounding pieces. And Patrick Mahomes has 5, 6, 7 All-Pros on that roster. We don't.
Yeah. And it's funny too, right? Because Joe Burrow gets all this. Well, Joe Burrow's got all this talent around him and all this nonsense. Not compared to some of these other quarterbacks, he doesn't. Not if you go by all pros, right? I mean, right. Again, like you said, I mean, Patrick Mahomes' offensive line is superior. It really is. I mean, it's superior to the Bengals' offensive line. Well, the interior part of it. I'm not sure the tackles are.
No, their tackles are subpar. Their
tackles,
I
don't think their tackles are very good, but the interior of their offensive line is stout. It might be the best in the NFL, to be honest with you, from center to both guards. Last week, Joe Burrow, 21 of 29, 164 yards. Again, we had the touchdown issue that he should have had at least one, whether it was Gesicki and the refs making the right call on that, or Tanner Hudson not fumbling the ball, but he does not. Patrick Mahomes, 20 of 28 for 291, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Again, we saw a lot of checkdowns and Joe Burrow happy feet in the pocket and get rid of the ball too fast. Wasn't able to push the ball downfield like Patrick Mahomes was. So, they both had about the same amount of attempts, the same amount of completions, but a differential of 130 yards is crazy because, again, Joe Burrow, has got to do a better job of looking downfield. Running the football. Believe it or not, Mon, the Bengals actually averaged more yards per carry than the Kansas City Chiefs did. Zach Moss, 9 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown. And Pacheco had 15 carries for only 45 yards and a touchdown. Do you think this game is going to come down to who can run the football better, or do you think it comes down to Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes?
I think the run game could help the Bengals tremendously. I think it could. Let's face it. I just touched base on it a little bit. We're trying to get Joe back to where he was last year and the year before. We're still trying to figure out our identity of the new defensive tackles. Sheldon Rankin struggled a little bit last week. We're trying to get it. The Bengals, I think they treated last week like a 4th preseason game. If Zach Moss and Brown could, get 15 more carries. And, we averaged 4.5 yards per carry. You mentioned that. We got 72 total yards rushing. The Chiefs only had 70 last week. So, if we can get 140, keep Mahomes on the bench. Let's take a page out of the Patriots playbook there. Let's run the ball, control the clock, limit their possessions, and I think we might have a puncher's chance there. I really do. I think maybe we get that upset.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thought there. Real quick, Kansas City's injury report today looked like Hollywood Brown is questionable. Obviously, Edwards-Helaire out for the game. He's on the IR, I believe, and won't be back for 4 weeks. But Hollywood Brown questionable. I don't think Hollywood Brown played in that Ravens matchup. So Bengals could be down T. Higgins, and they could be down Hollywood Brown. So two very explosive players that might not be playing in this football game. Obviously, though, I still think you have to look at this. The wide receiver matchup definitely goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. Even with Hollywood Brown in and T. Higgins out, I still think this Bengals wide receiving group is better than the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm not counting Travis Kelce in that realm. I'm just talking about the receiver position. Rashee Rice did have over 100 yards receiving last week, looked explosive at times, really made Kyle Hamilton look awful quite a bit. So let's go to the defensive side of the ball, Mon. And again, this Bengals defense that at times looked very poor. At times, a lot of missed tackles. You said it, 14 or 15 missed tackles. Really just could never get turnovers, could not flip the field position. The Patriots had 2 drives of well over 7 minutes. Is this Bengals defense good enough to stop the Kansas City Chiefs?
They're going to have to come up with a turnover. I hope they can slow them down a little bit. I don't think they're going to stop them. Kansas City's going to score. As I mentioned in the last portion there, if we can control the ball a little bit, control that clock, keep Mahomes on the bench a little bit, that would be great. I would love to be the team that has the ball 34 minutes, 35 minutes instead of being on the receiving end. Jake, last week, the Bengals did not respect the Patriots pass game. They only had 120 yards rush passing. The Patriots Cincinnati went all out in the second half to stop the run. They had 7-8 guys up at the line of scrimmage. They can't do that against Kansas City. They cannot do it. Our guys that make big money, Hill 10 million, Rankins 12 million, Hubbard 10 million, 15, 16 million for Hendrickson. They have got to play big. We need our stars to be stars. I need Logan Wilson. I need Gate. Akeem Davis Gaither could come in and play a key part covering Kelce. We have got to come up with some turnovers. We need our stars to make big plays. And listen, if we can they're going to score, Jake. We know they're going to score, but we got to get a few key stops. Our offense, we got to play complementary football. Our offense, we can't get 10 points. We can't have 224 yards total offense. If that happens, it'll be a blowout.
Well, I think, too, we also have to look at the other side of the ball, right? We have to look at, can the Bengals finally stop Chris Jones from being so disruptive that this Bengals offense struggles to make plays? And again, we talked about the pressures last week with the New England Patriots. This is a more talented front than what the Patriots have now that Judon has left the Patriots. Chris Jones, we saw him the last time we played this team in the playoffs. He basically won the football game for the Kansas City Chiefs, being so disruptive. We talk about how poor the Bengals' interior offensive line has been playing of late, especially last year. This year looks like maybe better as far as the pressures go. But again, is this offensive line, is it built better to stop Chris Jones from taking over this football game and being disruptive and causing so many issues for Joe Burrow?
I think our offensive line is a lot better. I think it's sort of a flip situation. We raved about the Chiefs' interior offensive line. I think our strength is the tackles. Their weakness is their tackles. Yeah. I think Chris Jones, obviously interior player, they're going to have to play big. Drew Sample is going to have to help out a lot. Don't forget last year's game with Browning. Browning came out and played lights out. At halftime, Spagnuolo made a couple tweaks here and there. Yep. He took away the Bengals' best threats. He double-teamed them. Somebody else has to make plays because Spagnuolo is going to say, Jamar Chase isn't going to beat me.
Yeah.
All right? He's not going to beat me. Right. Yeah, so And listen, nothing against Irwin. Irwin's a great spot player, but when he plays Kansas City, he doesn't really make a difference. He doesn't, because you
No.
know what? I mean,
Yeah.
they're not afraid of him. I know Burton is not trusted by the staff right now. He's an athlete. He's a 4.3, 4.4 guy. Get him out there. He's a weapon. He's a weapon. Get Chase Brown out there. He's got 4.3 speed. You got to get playmakers out there. That's the only way you're going to generate some offense against this team. They have a good defense. The reason they won that Super Bowl last year was that defense. That defense got them there. Really good players at every level. So Cincinnati matches up well against them. They really do. I think Cincinnati, we talked about this. You have said it. We've all said it. They're built to beat the Bills and the Chiefs. That's how the Bengals are built.
They are.
And unfortunately, we're getting punched in the mouth by physical teams right now. So
yeah,
I think the Bengals are trying to change the script a little bit. I don't know. It'd be great to have an upset there. I hope your prediction is right.
Well, it's weird. It's weird, right? Because it really is. Like, to me, this is a better matchup for the Bengals than the New England Patriots. And then the Patriots aren't even in the same league as the Kansas City Chiefs. But the Bengals just match up well against certain teams, the Chiefs and the Bills being two of those teams. And like you said, the more physical power teams are the ones that really the Bengals struggle with year in and year out. I think this is a good matchup for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I do think this, Mon, I think that this Chiefs defense, especially the defensive backfield, right? The back end of this defense, there are a lot of holes. I mean, there were guys running wide open against them with, and Lamar Jackson, obviously not the same caliber quarterback as Joe Burrow, could not hit those wide open guys. Joe Burrow will. I mean, if Joe Burrow has guys running wide open down the field like the Baltimore Ravens did last week, Joe Burrow will find those guys. And I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I do. Go ahead.
No, you're right. I just want to add on to what you just said. You're right. He missed some wide open receivers, but one of the reasons that defense was off kilter for Kansas City, Baltimore ran for 185. So, those linebackers are worried about that. Maybe they tend to help their corners out a little bit. Baltimore really had them off kilter there. So Cincinnati has got to run the ball. If we need teams to actually say, hey, man, the Bengals actually got a running game this year. Because some teams go out there, they don't care. Hey, man, let the Bengals get 4 yards. I don't care. We're going to play back so the receivers don't kill us. We need to start developing a consistent quality running game so the defense is actually respected. That's what I want to see.
Well, and again, Zach Moss, the Bengals offense really couldn't get going and couldn't really be established. But Zach Moss averaged almost 5 yards a carry. That's not too shabby. So hopefully the Bengals do come out and they run the football we talked about this on our group chat. Again, this is something that we talked about the last couple of days is Jermaine Burton. I mean, Jermaine Burton's got to be on the football field, right? I mean, he is, you said it, Trent Irwin, he's a great player. He's a great guy. He's a great spot player, but we have got to have guys on the field that are explosive, that can take the top off, right? That can make defenses scared and play back. And Trent Irwin's not that guy. Jermaine Burton is. I understand that he's a rookie and he's progressing, but there's a lot of rookie receivers playing right now and starting in the NFL. Jermaine Burton has got to be on the field, right?
I think he does. I don't know what he's done to the staff. I don't know what's going on. You hear these rumors about sleeping, being late. I don't know. When he played in the preseason, he made plays. He's a fast, talented guy, elite competition in the SEC. Get the guy on the field. We need weapons on the field, especially with T. Higgins potentially not playing. Get Chase Brown out there. That speed is unbelievable. Get, Charlie Jones is fast also. I get it. Get Gesicki the ball. We have a lot of weapons. We really do. I would love to see this like a coming out game for the Bengals. 155 plus yards rushing, 230, 250 for Burrow. Just a consistent ball control. Hey, man, let's win this game 24-17. I would love that. I would love it.
Yeah.
But, we'll see, man. It's going to be the Bengals are going to be pumped up. They really are. They just these halftime adjustments. The last 2 times we have played the Chiefs, the halftime adjustments have hurt us. Normally, it's the
Agreed.
Bengals. It's normally the Bengals that have the positive.
Agreed. That's a good
Spagnuolo's
point.
come out and slowed things down. We
That's a
need
good point.
to counter that. We need to counter.
That's a very good point, and something not thought about is the last 2 games. The Bengals have you felt like they had really dominated the Chiefs in the first half of both of those games, and the Chiefs ended up winning the football game both times with those halftime adjustments. That's a great point. All right, guys. So you heard it here. Mon has the Chiefs winning 27-21. I have the Bengals winning 24-21. Those are our picks. Remember, guys, the Bengals Pulse will be live Sunday right after the Bengals beat the Chiefs 24-21. And we're going to talk about Evan McPherson's last-second field goal and how great Joe Burrow came back and played. So make sure you join us right after the game on Sunday here on the Bengals Pulse to talk all Bengals and hopefully have a lot more positive things to talk about after the football game. As always, guys.
Some people are really mad at us. I mean, we weren't targeting anybody, okay?
Listen. If it went under review, there would be no target, Mon. If it went under review, there would be no target and no personal foul. Listen, again, Mon and I are diehard Bengal fans. We have been for 40 plus years. That's what this podcast is. It's 2 diehard Bengal fans talking through their emotions with all of you guys, and we love doing it every week, and we love having you guys on.
I just got to say something. We're talking. I got some personal messages, direct messages, because they thought I was being overly negative on Twitter, not on the show, also my Twitter, and like a couple people have a lot of followers like that. I'm like, hey man, just chill out. Sometimes it makes you wonder, like, is some of these guys like a burner account for one of the coaches? And that's when I made my comment, like, hey, I mean, it wasn't targeted at any fan or anything like that. It was about the person that contacted me. Let me be a fan, okay? And it is what it is. It is what it is.
I mean, you and I we have been for a very, very long time. But we love it. We love it, and we love coming on here with you guys. Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, guys. As always, if you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify. As always, guys, follow him on Twitter at @TheFireMon. Feel free to message him anytime when you're pissed off at him. Follow me on Twitter at CoachJakeOwens9. I would prefer you not message me if you're pissed off at me. You can go ahead and message Mon if you're pissed off at me too.
Eric, it's Eric.
Oh yeah, Eric is the one. Follow Eric. Follow Eric on Twitter at eFlash with 2 H's 88. Yes. If you're really pissed off at Mon and I, follow Eric on Twitter and message him.
He's telling us to say this stuff. He's the one behind the scenes. He's saying you guys either. I mean, it's PG-13 what we're doing. The stuff he's typing is unbelievable. You need to go to church, Eric.
Listen, I don't think anybody believes that, Mon. That Eric is the mean one between the 3 of us. Follow the Wednesday Podcast Network on Twitter at Wednesday Pod. And as always, follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9. On Instagram, the same without the @ Bengals_Pulse9. And as always, guys, if you like this podcast, make sure you give us that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. Again, guys, check us out live right after the game. Bengals at Chiefs in Burrowhead. Game kicks off at 4:25. We will be on live right after the game ends to talk Bengals. Hopefully not to be here for the misery, but to be here for the positivity and the celebration of getting back to 1-1. He is Mon. I am Jake. Eric is in the background. We appreciate him. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hoo day, Bengal fans. We will see you live on Sunday.